Welcome to Simple Conversations with ASG.
Before you start listening to today's episode, I need your help. We're quickly approaching Christmas and the 1-year anniversary of Simple Conversations. A staple in this show has become the question, what's annoying you this week? And I want to celebrate that with a twist. I have some repeat guests lined up to discuss everything that's annoyed us in 2024. But I want to know what annoyed you this year also. In the description, there's a form that will allow you to participate in some of the special episodes I have lined up. Anyway, that's enough from me. On to today's conversation. So tell me, who is Dark Joseph Ravine?
So Dark Joseph Ravine is my stage name. It's the name I use online and in life. And the idea behind the name is to fight against darkness. Like, my idea is to put light onto the world with promoting positivity and kindness and helping people. And it's just the stage name that I use to help make the world a better place.
Amazing. So, what's been annoying you this week?
To be honest with you, pretty much a lot of the crazy things happening in the world, the news, things like that. I don't want to get into a discussion about it, but you know what? Just the fact that it's repeating itself over and over and over. I think in my mind, wouldn't you think by now people would have gotten the message if you keep saying something over and over? Like, why do you have to repeat something 5 million times? Don't you think everybody would know after the 7th or 8th time?
Yeah, I scrolled through a few different news pages this week because someone had brought up on a past episode that the news just recycled media with different names, and I read through the last 3 weeks of different media pages, and literally every headline is the exact same, but it's been put through some kind of ChatGPT and reword this headline. It's so stupid. Surely one news article would get the idea around. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we're here to talk about positivity, and I actually liked your background of your stage name of trying to get the attention away from the darkness, and it's something it's very popular spokily on the show, where I've had people who are in Hollywood and they've spoke about what they've seen, and my God, some of the stories it's hard to believe those people actually exist, to be honest. But was there anything in particular that made you want to attack that, or was it just you knew from growing up that it was out there and you didn't want people to see it?
I don't really have an answer for that personally, because usually whenever I read the news and things like that, I try not to pay attention to it. I might see it for 10 seconds and then I like to just forget about it. I mean, I don't know about other people. Other people are very impacted by the silliest things ever. But for me personally, I really try not to pay attention. I mean, that's just me. Other people might differ.
Yeah, would you say then you limit yourself with what you see in social media?
What do you mean by that?
Like how you mentioned that you don't pay attention to it and stuff, all the social media nowadays, it's very difficult to avoid it. Would you say that with your time on social media, with your scrolling activities and stuff, do you kind of limit what you do see, or do you know kind of the corners to avoid?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of things on social media that are definitely annoying. But for me personally, when I usually go through social media, I may see a post, but I don't necessarily engage with it. I think that's probably what a lot of people do when it comes to social media. They may see something, but they don't necessarily engage with it. And that's pretty much what I do too.
Yeah, someone like you who has got a big responsibility on social media, it's a big part of your job. I can imagine that you see some people that they can't avoid it. They can't help but being dragged into the fancy titles and the big colourful headlines, and they have to read what it is, and it just ends up in a downward spiral.
Yeah, for sure.
So with your whole philosophy of trying to get people away from the attention of the darkness, have you found there's anything kind of in particular that's making, maybe, I don't know if the world's maybe having a positivity crisis or not, but do you think there's anything in particular that's maybe stopping people from thinking positive or speaking positive?
Yes, actually. And the way you actually brought that up, I want to say that there's a lot of people who go through difficult things in their life, especially, adults and teens and, people who experience things and they become really negative as a direct result. Like maybe they don't have enough money, or they don't have a job, or they don't have a spouse, or they're not being treated nicely by the people they love, or things like that. Usually those things are very impactful. And a lot of times when people are negative, that's probably one of the reasons why. And the problem having something more to do with something going on in their life, as opposed to, just seeing whatever they see in general. Like anybody can write anything negative, but a lot of the times the way I look at it, learning from celebrities who've been successful, is whenever usually people are negative on social media, a lot of the times it comes from a place of them having their own problems. It has nothing to do with me. So if someone calls me a bad name or curses me, it's because they're not happy in their own life. It's not because of me.
Yeah, they're reflecting their own insecurities. Do you think then maybe people are focusing too much on the bad in their life?
I happen to think so, because you know what? Just to think of all the good things the world offers people and the good things you can do, and how it's very easy to make a life for yourself and things like that. And the fact that they don't do that, and they're dwelling on things that don't work out for them, and they want to have what they want to have. I don't know why they behave that way. Maybe because when they were a kid, they got almost everything they wanted. And then when they got older, they didn't get all the things they wanted. So they kind of live this life of wanting what they want and not getting it. And I'm sorry to be honest, that's when they ruin their whole lives doing that.
Yeah, it's a bus of just unhappiness, really. But is there any way that the whole social media content creation world now of you have to show how fancy and how great your life is and how rich and successful you are, do you think that's maybe playing into it? Maybe they're seeing it too much and maybe thinking they should have that too?
I'm glad you're bringing that up. All these people who play on social media like they're living a wealthy, rich lifestyle and family and things like that, I don't even believe any of them. I honestly think that they're doing this to promote themselves. Like how people use fake it till you make it, pretend to be somebody you're not, and then maybe one day you might be somebody. I don't know. I don't believe anything anybody says. People can say they're the nicest people, or people can say they're the best people. All the people I've been tricked by all my life, I don't believe anything I see on the media or online. I only can believe what I see live in action.
Yeah, they do play on the fact that normal people won't understand how easy it is to create sets and rent these things that look so cool and people admire. Like, there's a lot of these people that they'll have stage houses, so that the house they're showing on social media, it's an empty room with a few cameras, maybe a few chairs, and then they'll go home to their one bed apartment.
Exactly. And that's what pretty much everybody does. They pay money to go tour fancy places, or sometimes they might rent a fancy dress or try on something fancy at a fancy store. They might put it on, take a photo, put it on their social media, and then put it out and then give it back to the store. A lot of these people are not honest. I remember somebody one time was lying in a bed and she pretended that she was in Dubai on a fancy vacation, and in reality she was really in IKEA lying on their bed. You see, there's so many liars on social media. You cannot believe anything you see anymore. Like for me, I don't believe anyone anymore.
Yeah, it's so weird how it became that way, because I remember like when content creation first started, like people were making just like funny prank videos and jokes and stuff. I don't know at what point it escalated to I have to make it out that I'm better than you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that up, because to tell you the truth, when I was a child, I always remembered people never cared about looking good or money
Never.
or rich or fancy. I remember, and I liked that lifestyle so much better at that time. It's very sad how much status and money and all this stuff really has taken over the world, and the social climbing and stuff like that. I feel like it's taken over the world in the worst way possible. Today, everybody wants to be a somebody. But in my day, we weren't like that. We were more ourselves. We were more, being true to who we were. and it's very sad. Like, I kind of do miss those time periods when we didn't care about all this stuff. But, life goes on, and only the future will tell what will be.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot recently about what was the difference or how could it ever go back to that stage. But I've been talking to a few people and they've been mentioning that there's like a whole world of self improvement on social media that it it will probably be the reason why it will never go back to that era because it's so harsh now. It's like if you're not making 10 grand a month, you're worthless. If you're still living with your parents, you're a piece of shit. Like it's just so stupid. Like there's so many other ways that you can be happy in life without that shit. Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's very sad. Honestly, I personally just wish that, people would understand that certain things in life really don't matter as much as they make it out to seem. Because in the end of the day, you have to think of life like, what are you getting out of showing someone you have a fancy house or showing someone you have money or showing anybody the things you have? You're not getting anything. In many
awesome.
cases, you're just making people jealous and making people hate you and want to talk bad about you. And then in the end, you just end up suffering and more bad things happen. I was always taught by my family that you should learn to be humble, live a humble life, don't pretend to be someone you're not, and, don't don't flaunt anything, try to help other people, focus your mindset on the way you can help others. The same way how I started my marketing agency, that even though I use it for myself, I use it for other people too. So I'm sharing what I have with the world. When I like to show things, I always like to help other people in a sense. So if I do a tutorial on something, if I go to a place, everything I try to promote is more for the betterment of other people, not really for me. My happiness comes in when I make someone else happy. I mean, I can't make everybody happy, but
Yeah.
I remember Kim Kardashian once said, "This life isn't about you, and it's about helping as many people as you can." So that's kind of the life moral I live by.
Yeah. Your thought there on kindness and stuff is it stuck with me there now because I read a couple of studies over the weekend that were saying that selfless acts of kindness have gone down rapidly in the last 2 years, and they were doing like a back and forth debate about why it happened. And one of the philosophers who he knew everything on the subject, he'd done the study himself, done the experiments, and he just sat there and he goes, "It doesn't make sense to me how people now don't want to make acts of kindness that don't benefit them." Which could probably be a reason why people are a little bit more unhappy because they're not doing anything to make other people happy.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to tell you something. In this day and age, the sad reality is people usually are only kind if it benefits. Some
Yeah.
people won't just be kind out of their own good heart. And it's a very sad reality. And so many people think many celebrities are narcissistic, rude, full of themselves, when the reality is they're the biggest givers and the biggest helpers to the public, more than people know. If they make money and they make a living for so many people and help so many people with the things they do. And that's how, that's really what life is all about, to help other people and to make a difference. Like when you start a business of some kind, you have to do something that's beneficial to other people. A business is not you, it's other people, it's the public. So, it's sad that people only think of themselves and not other people.
Yeah, I never realized how bad it was until the last episode of the show about narcissism when I put it out, and I started getting messages, like a lot of them in the first day, and I couldn't understand what it was that done it, but I looked at the messages and the comments under the clips, and people were saying, "This episode done nothing for me." It literally, the whole episode was about how people who are narcissists only want to be around people who give them value, and they were messaging me saying, "This done nothing for me." It was so just eye-opening to how bad the situation really is.
Okay, sometimes there's going to be times in the life where, even as a podcaster or whatever you do, you're not going to have the best episodes all the time. Like, sometimes even for me, there's been times on podcasts where I slipped and I said things I probably shouldn't have said. But, you have to understand that's also part of why you do podcasting or whatever it is you do. you're not meant to be perfect every time you have an episode. If all your episodes were perfect, people might think it sounds too good to be true. So that's why it's always good to have those little mistakes.
Yeah, on the topic of that, you don't have to be perfect. It's something that I've noticed anyway with people who are in the same area as me and who I see on a day-to-day basis, that I don't know if this has maybe always been an issue within humans, but wanting to have everything absolutely spot on and perfect all the time really seems to be a mood killer for people.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, if you're coming off as too perfect, like even on social media or on the internet or anything like that, which I've known some people for being that way, and in reality, they were not who they said they were. A lot of times people would not believe. How have you ever heard of, if something sounds too good to be true, it's usually too good to be true. So the same way about a person where there's too much publicity about them being a good person and things like that, and people saying things, and there's not one negative thing about them. To me, that sounds too good to be true. It's not possible that somebody is this perfect. And how is it possible that somebody can be that perfect? So, all the people I reached out to that came off that way on the media, they were not like that in real life. They were mean. They were contradictory of what the media said. And, some people don't realize the things they should realize. But I don't pay attention anymore to those things. I'm very direct with who I am. I give everyone the opportunity to meet me, get to know me, then have your opinion at the end of the day. Whatever you feel, I'm fine with that, but at least get to know me.
Yeah, that's a great way to have an outlook on, especially with your role as quote unquote influencer. I don't know if you like the title or not of that, because I know a lot of people don't, but it's a good outlook for you to have, because you've got so many people around you that they'll want something from you, hoping to benefit them, and I don't know, I don't even know how you deal with that, because you're bound to have just so many people see your numbers on social media and like, oh, I can get ahead here very easy if I use them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have any thoughts. I don't know if I would call myself an influencer.
Yeah, I done quotes.
The internet actually defined me as internet personality or author, or the truth is, actually, I really, really don't know what real category I really fall under in all reality. I haven't really found my identity. I just called myself an influencer for having a huge following, but
Yeah.
if I really, really had to choose a category, maybe I probably would come up under as maybe positive motivator, in a way where I try to motivate people to understand things and to learn. And then I try to help people, not just through advice, but also physically. And that I use my following to kind of help others, get publicity and get realized and tell the public their value and their worth. So I guess maybe a category that would suit me as Dark Joseph Ravine would probably be a positive motivator, because I am about positive motivation. So,
have you got much experience as a motivational speaker?
I've spoken here and there, and I've talked to people who needed help before, who didn't know how to handle situations very well, and they all claim that I've helped them all, and that my advice worked very, very well and stuff like that. So, yeah, but I've never really been like invited to come speak at events or things like that. I mean, I would love to come speak at an event. In fact, I'd probably sponsor something if I got invited.
Yeah.
Usually, whenever someone does for me, like I'll always do for them if I can. Like that's just how I am as a person. Like, But at the end of the day, for me, when it comes to being a motivator or anything you want to do, you have to be asked. You can't do something that's not asked. Otherwise, people go crazy and get angry at you. And that's actually, I'm glad I'm bringing that up, because I want to tell you that's a big issue with a lot of the internet personality and influencers with a lot of followers today. That's what they do. They go to public places and they make a scene, and they get all the people there coming to view them and everything, and then they end up getting kicked out, and they say they got kicked out for no reason. But I happen to think that the reason being is because you can't come on private property and cause a scene, especially when
Yeah.
people there have the intention of coming for either shopping or eating, or they're there for the mall. They're not there to meet you or see you or come for you. And this is something I talk about all the time in marketing. You have to remember the intention. The intention will always help you realize things. So, I try to focus on the intention above anything.
Yeah, I've heard that before about people turning up and causing scenes, because there's a guy that was on this podcast at the very start who he's went on now to become a big podcaster in Finland, but he spoke to me about, he had someone on his show that they said that there's a lot of celebrities and entertainers that when their name isn't as big anymore, they'll go somewhere, cause a massive scene, and ring paparazzi to come and film it and take pictures of it. So they'll set the whole thing up themselves so they can create a buzz on the internet.
If you are enjoying this episode, follow and rate the show.
And I can tell you very truthfully, all this is just a publicity stunt to get the people's attention and everything like that. I think that,
terrible.
yeah, it is very sad. But I do think that, realistically, if you're outside on public space and you have a right to be there and you're not on private property, then maybe, do whatever you want. But, when you're on private property, there are rules to follow. Like, never cause a scene on private property. Like, if you want to go to the park and it's a public space and you have a right to be there, and you want to film an interview or you want to film people crowding around you and things like that, sure, go ahead. It's public space, so you can do whatever you'd like. But on private property, when people have the intention of coming to that place for that particular place, never cause a scene, ever.
Yeah, it can get dangerous. Something I want to ask you, as you mentioned, people come to you for advice and they like your advice. What is the most common kind of topic they come to you for advice on?
Pretty much about like how to deal with bullies and how to deal with mean people. I wrote an award-winning children's book called Watch Out, It's Nolan, and it was meant to make the future generation better. But for me, with the future generation being better, it all starts with the adults, like the teachers, the parents, the educators. It can't start with the kids because the kids don't know better. They're not smart enough to know things.
Yeah.
So for me, I try to focus more towards the older demographic, the adults, the parents, the people who are in position of education or authority. Because I feel like they're the only ones that can make that difference. They're the only ones that can influence.
Yeah, the bullying topic could also be linked to the older demographic too, especially with social media. My God, you put up a bad photo and your comment section could be absolute madness.
Absolutely. And that's so important because if you really think about it, I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question before about what advice people come to, but oftentimes I always get people who always talk about their disparity and their sad experiences in life and things like that. And I try to tell them that, it's there, that the sadness that you go through comes out of those people having sadness in their life. And that's why they're all taking it out on other people. And that's why you shouldn't take it to heart. You should just kind of take it as a lesson to be learned, a lesson to be gained. Because, I want to tell you, when I was a child myself, I used to think kids were just mean out of their own ego and just because they thought it was cool to be mean. But only to find out when I saw a lot of kids over the years bully each other and mistreat each other and go through really horrible things, get in trouble with the law, all kinds of things like that. Then I realized why they haven't been so nice. Because when people go through really horrible things in their life or feel neglected or feel like they're not being understood, they do bad things. And that's reality, So I try to tell people that sometimes people's nastiness, really, it's not personal. People go through hard things. Even adults do. I do too.
All the time. Do you think then that people should take more time to deal with the things they've gone through in the past and their actual problems before they start just going on a frenzy?
Yeah, no, they should definitely, have some time alone to kind of regroup and rethink about how to make their future better, how to focus on things that matter in their life, and, all kinds of stuff like that. And at the end of the day, if you really, really want my humble opinion about friendship and, seeing people in your life and things like that, I can honestly tell you, friendship really is for fun.
Yeah.
I don't think that people are ever like always loyal to you and stay with you and are your best friends forever the way you think. I think sometimes people come, people go, and then life just goes on. It's like a circle of people every day, and like a new person this year, a new person 2 years later, a new person this year, and it's part of life. I haven't met a loyal friend in my life. I mean, I had someone who stayed with me for a long time. I still have someone now who stayed with me for a long time. But, it's not like most people, I don't think that they're as loyal in a sense.
Yeah, it's easy to kind of change around friendships and stuff, especially when you get to different stages of your life, because everybody goes through different stages at different points. People get married earlier, people get married later, people have children earlier, and then there's people then that don't want to strive towards some sort of goal. There's other people who are just happy with what they have. So I think that if you're not cycling through friends, you're doing something probably not right. There's something that you're neglecting there that you should probably be trying to fix.
Definitely. And that's so important as well. Because the more you start to focus on things that really don't matter and you forget about the stuff that does matter, that's when you're going to start to mess yourself up in a very bad situation. I was always taught, keep focusing on things that always matter. Because if you focus on what doesn't matter, you're asking for trouble. And so I learned that. And I learned it the hard way. But, everybody's human. We live and we learn.
Yeah, the big thing that I've noticed with people that it seems to bring them down from thinking positive or talking positive or spreading positivity is they really, really sweat and focus on the small things that realistically, if they just give it a month, a year, those small things probably wouldn't be about anymore.
Exactly. Especially when, there's so many things of life to focus on that are great, that are important, And at the end of the day, the only person who can make a life for yourself is you. Other people cannot make you happy. Other people cannot make you have a life. Every person is responsible for their own life and how you want to make it and how you would want it to be, And that's something that many people need to learn.
Yeah, it's a hard thing though to get through to someone, especially if they've been dealing their whole life with that mindset. Is there anything in particular you could think of that would help them move in the right direction of not focusing too much on the bad things?
I think the best way for them to not focus too much on the bad things is to get rid of the poison ivy in their life. So if they have people that are hurting them, don't go near them anymore. If they have parents that are not understanding them, take it to family therapy. Take it to a way where we can understand each other. Because it's never nice when somebody feels neglected and doesn't feel understood. Like I lived a long period of my life not feeling understood. And that's why I behaved badly and did bad things here and there when I was young. But now I finally got understood. And since I got understood, now I don't feel as bad anymore.
Yeah, once you felt like you were heard, you had less then to worry about.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many different things that probably go into it, but that we went back to the acts of kindness kind of and disappearing and things like that. But I think the people sweating the small stuff have occupied the brain so much to the point where they can't see a reason to be kind to other people because it doesn't feel like the world's being kind to them.
Exactly. And as mentioned before, a lot of the times people are usually only kind if it can benefit them. Not everybody, but the people that I've encountered in my life, unless they can get something out of you, they don't want anything to do with it. It's a very sad reality. Because, I remember watching videos from this guy doorman, and what I saw was there was somebody that was dressed like a homeless person that was supposed to be an inspector that was going to come and give them a kit like a star for being the best restaurant. And because he thought he was homeless, he treated him so horribly and was being nasty to him, the owner of the place. And what happened was when he was about to leave, he took the Michelin star that he originally gave him. And then he says, I never got to introduce myself. I'm the inspector. And he's been mean to him this whole time because he thought he was homeless. And he's like, oh my God, listen, I'm so sorry. Here, let me help you. Let me do this. Let me do this. Too late. I won't be eating here again. And after my review, lots of other people will. So you see how even though that guy was nasty and went from nasty to nice, that's not real nice. He was only nice because it could have benefited him. You know what I mean? So That's the reality of people who are nasty, who are sometimes nice because it benefits them. Of course he's going to be nice because he could have gotten something that he needed. Now he lost it, and in the end he didn't get it. But that's the kind of nice we should avoid and not fall for, because there are a lot of people who are not nice for real. They're opportunists, as my sister always tells me.
I want to move now to talk about a skill that you have that I think is probably the hardest thing for people to obtain now in today's world, where they're very self-conscious and insecure about themselves. But on Google somewhere it says that you are a master at being yourself. And I think that's something people really, really struggle to do.
Oh, yeah. And I want to tell you something. It's not easy being yourself when you're in a situation where you feel like you want to fit in, you want people to like you, you want to be invited out, you want people to think about you and things like that. That is a harsh reality for a lot of people. And I always say all the time, always be yourself and be true to yourself. But also, when you join groups or you join people, you also have to remember, when is the time for, to find common ground and interest. So you could still be yourself, but, to make friends and for people to like you and everything, you also have to feel connected to the people. Are you guys similar? Do you guys have common interests? Are you guys the same age? Do you go to the same school? It also comes from, finding common ground, because that's the best way how people make all their friendships. And, and that's the thing. You have to be yourself. And at the same time, you have to make an effort to also compromise and help other people in a way where you have stuff in common with them.
Yeah. What do you think it is that is a mental block people are having that stops them being themselves?
I think the biggest mental block is that people who are not themselves, oftentimes they're not living in reality. They see this group of people that they think are cool and amazing and wonderful, and then they try to live a fake life, trying to be like them, and they can't be like them, and they can't thrive like them, and they can't do, the things they can do. And as a direct result, they end up ruining their life and reputation, and they end up becoming upset and sad over things like that. And, I think that it's important to understand that, you don't have to live a lie to fit in with people. You have to be honest with who you really are. Because I want to tell you, there was a time, and you might think I'm crazy for saying this, there was a time where I wasn't treated very nicely in the environments I was in over my time. I live in Toronto, and what I used to do was I used to tell people I was famous and I was viral and this and that, and I would self-promote in front of people to try to make them like me and think differently of me and things like that. And unfortunately, it caused outrage in my community, and, I wasn't very well respected. People hated me, and, things took a ugly turn for me. And until I went to a new environment, and this one wise man taught me, if somebody cannot be nice to you the way you are without knowing anything about you, that's not a good person to be around. That's not someone you should even talk to or be near. And if someone like that was nasty to you and then suddenly starts being nice to you after finding out stuff about you, just understand it's for their own benefit. It's not for you. It's not real kindness. So therefore, avoid that person at every cost. So since the day I learned that, that's when I stopped telling people who I was, and I started being myself and gone like a regular person. And life just got better and better from that point.
So, do you think there's any way at all confidence is playing in them not wanting to be themselves? Because it can be difficult to talk about what's on your mind.
Definitely. And this is a weird story I'm going to share with you, and you might think I'm crazy for this, but there was a
Can't wait.
time where I was really treated horribly in the environments I've been in my community in Toronto. And I used to promote myself and tell people I'm Dark Joseph Ravine and that I've been in the media and the news and everything. And I used to show them like a brochure and things like that, just so that they'd like me and they'd be good to me. And it didn't do me any good with these mean people. And all that ended up happening was me having a bad reputation and people thinking horrible about me. You know, I suffered a lot because of it. But when I went into this new environment, a wise man once told me, if people can't be nice to you the way you are without knowing anything about you, then that's not people you should even be around or go near. And so when I started taking his advice and I stopped telling people who I was and everything and just acted as a regular person, that's when my life became better and things started to change. And I never told anyone who I was anymore. And, you know, and that's what I think a lot of these people need, based on what I've been through, is they need positive influences. If you have these positive influences, this is what will make the life better.
Yeah, Benjamin Schrader was on the show and he spoke about how when he was at Texas Tech, he was just, nobody cared about him. He was a normal person. People would walk by him in the hallways every day, but he started an events company. And the big thing he pushed whenever he started was, I'm going to wear a suit every single event. So I'm going to go into the middle of a nightclub in a suit every time. And he has this amazing quote that nobody cared who I was until I put on a sports jacket.
It's amazing. Yes,
definitely. It's so quick.
And that's actually so much better when it comes to wanting to be known and things like that. You don't want to promote yourself and go places and tell people who you are. You hope that based on what you do, people can figure that out on their own. That to me is worth gold, when that's more organic fame and organic celebrity, in the sense that somebody is discovering you without you telling them who you are. And to me, that's worth gold, because that builds more respect. And so I think that if they work more on their humbleness and their humility and things like that, they'll have a better chance of living a good life. Because I did the same thing too. I was upset about people not treating me nicely, so I self-promoted thinking maybe people would be better. In the end, it backfired on me and it got worse. It was only when I went into this new environment when I had to learn my lesson. And I did.
Yeah, I think that people are overthinking a little bit, because if you just focus on what you actually want to do and improve the areas of your life you actually need to improve, it'll all come out in the wash eventually. Like it'll all work out. If you're not meant to be seen, you won't be seen. If you are meant to be seen, you'll be seen. Like it's not a big deal in the end up if you just focus on what you're doing.
Definitely. And that's something we should all really concentrate on, the things that matter in our life, the things we love to do. Because if you look at all these celebrities, you know, many of these celebrities are just working for these record companies and doing what these record companies ask for and everything. They're not telling people, oh, I'm this and I'm that and I'm that and I'm this. All these interviews and media and award shows and premieres that they're going to and everything, it's all publicity for their record companies. And if they make money, it goes mostly to the record companies and the managements and things like that. So in the end of the day, it's not like it's real fame. It's mostly like them just doing publicity stunts and just getting paid for, you know, the things they do. So it's not like they're promoting themselves, many of them. They're just working for other people.
Yeah. I have one last topic I want to talk about in the world of positivity, and it's one that I've been focusing on this year myself, and I've since, like, I actually can't believe how much of an improvement it's made, which is changing how I speak to more positive terms and sentences. And it has made such a big difference. Like there's a cliche one that it sounds cringy and it sounds stupid, but it works. Is instead of saying I have to go to work, say I get to go to work. It's
Definitely.
such a simple little fix, and it's so powerful.
For sure. And that's the most important thing, is that when you do something, you're doing it for the sake of making sure that you're not forcing it, and that you're not pushing too far for it, and that you're also taking into account that if I'm going to do any kind of job or work, how can I help them? They're paying me money, so they're benefiting me, so I have to benefit them. It's not just all about me, saying, oh, I'm just here because I need the money. No, you have to help people. You have to benefit others if eventually you want to get benefited yourself. That's the best lesson of my life I've ever learned. It's what I encourage everyone to learn.
Yeah, people don't understand that. I think maybe it's because there's so many different roles in the world of manifestation that people think it doesn't exist, but they don't realize that speaking negatively is projecting negative thoughts and manifesting bad things to happen to you.
Definitely. And that's the problem, is that they've been through so much negativity, they just don't know who to trust, which is understandable. But in the end of the day, like I tell people all the time, you are only responsible for your life and the life you want to live. Nobody else is.
Yeah, no one's coming to save you.
Exactly.
Have you got any good quotes that have helped you think more positively or look at the world more positively?
Absolutely, I do. One quote, I wouldn't say it's a quote, but I listened to a podcast by this person, and she said in the podcast, that she was so focused on running after so many things, and then one thing she learned was nothing gives you everything. She was saying, I need this, I need this, I need this, and then she just said, let go. I don't want anything. Give it to God. God handles it. And she says whenever she did that, she got everything she ever wanted, and it came quickly and naturally, without force, without problems. And so I say the same thing too, from learning from this person. Give your life to God, have faith in God, and just let God decide what's meant for you, and you'll live the best life ever.
Yeah, regaining faith seems to be a big thing at the moment. A lot of people are really, really pushing for it. I know in Ireland it's become an incredible amount of people who are going back towards faith when they feel like they've sinned. But do you think that it's maybe a maturity thing of realizing that like not everything in the world revolves around you, that you do think of other people, and that projecting does help you then with your faith get to where you actually wanted to go to?
Yeah, of course. The problem is a lot of people live in fear, thinking, oh, if I don't have this, I'm going to suffer, or if I don't get this, I'm going to suffer. Like, this is an emergency, and this and that. Nothing is ever an emergency if you don't have something. You have to take it one step at a time, and you have to be easygoing, and you can't force or shove to get what you want. You have to kind of just let it come to you naturally.
Completely agree. It's been a great talking to you, Joseph. And before we go, is there anything you want to plug away now? I give you the space now. The floor is yours.
The only thing I just want to say to everybody who's listening to this podcast is, you're amazing the way you are. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Stay positive. Find your self-worth. Just remember, everybody has opinions, whatever they want to think. And you don't have to believe what people tell you. Find good people and people that encourage you in your life, people that make you happy. Surround yourself with positivity if you want to live a good life. Any negativity will always make you sick. So focus on good things.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Joseph. It's been an absolute pleasure. All Joseph's details will be in the description anyway. But it's been incredible having you here, and it's great that someone's at least trying to shed some light in the world.
Follow your new favorite interviewer with the link in the description.